Welcome to Real Talk with Star Scorpio, Season 1, Episode 7. Before I begin, I just want to shout out all the frontline workers in the hospital, down to the medical staff, the doctors, and the nurses. My mom was a nurse for 30 years at Women's College Hospital. So because of that, I know a lot of nurses. And we do have family members and friends that are nurses. Shout out Nadine and shout out my niece, Simone. Now, if you haven't seen Episode 6 with DJ Che La Soul, check it out on my YouTube page. And if you rather listen to the audio version, you can find it on Amazon Music, Spotify, or Anchor. For this episode, Health Talk, I sit down with Dwight, aka MedSoulBrother, aka Nursesoulbrother. He is a registered nurse with a lot to share. Let's bring him in. Dwight, welcome to Real Talk with Star Scorpio. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. First and foremost, it is a Saturday morning. I usually don't wake up early Saturday morning, man. So you're lucky and blessed that I did this, because normally around this time I am in my bed. So blessings to you.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks for coming out. Okay, so I have to let the people know we used to work together 15 years ago. And I have to thank
Has it been that long?
Yes, it's been that long. And I have to thank you for being so welcoming to me when I first started my job in 2006. And then in 2009, when I was trying to make a horror movie with a comedy twist, you were there for me again, along with Keisha Brownie and Crystal Ferrier.
What is it?
What do you mean, what is it? Did you find the car?
How do you mean if I found the car? I just got to the elevator. No. No, really, how could I have just found the car if I'm just now getting to the elevator?
He's just now getting to the elevator. Hello? Hello? He's rude. Who is he?
Yeah.
But when you were working at the company, were you in school? And why did you choose nursing as your career?
So I left that company, and I think in 2009, I believe, or maybe close to like 2010. So what happened was I was in a situation where I was always interested in healthcare. I was always interested in medicine and so forth. Originally, I wanted to become a doctor. That obviously didn't work out. So, I was kind of dibbling and dabbling in between different healthcare positions. So prior to us working at our company that we worked at before, I had worked at, I worked as a pharmacy tech. So I did that for about at least a total of 15 years. And it became a part-time job that just never, I never got rid of. Like I actually I stopped doing it while I was working for the company that we were both working at. And then I kind of got sucked back into it. And then I started doing it again. And then once I finished my career that I am in right now, I basically had, I said goodbye to it. But healthcare has always been something that I was into. Originally, I wanted to become well, there was three avenues that I wanted. So obviously, the doctor. Yeah. Which B, because I was already a pharmacy technician, I was looking at becoming a pharmacist. But because I was a pharmacy tech for so long and I saw what pharmacists go through, I was like, nah, this is not. So, and this is no disrespect to pharmacists. I love them. I respect them. I've got a lot of friends who are pharmacists, but I just think that for their career, they deserve way more respect and way more acknowledgement, and they don't. And seeing it from a technician side of point, I was like, nah. So, my third option actually was a split between being a respiratory therapist and a nurse. Okay. And because the reason why with that is because with those two jobs, you can end up becoming an anesthesiology assistant. So that thing I was like, wow, this is wicked, right? So I applied for both programs, the RT and the nursing program. I got into both, but what happened was the RT program was full, so I got accepted, but I wouldn't have gotten until the following September year after, and I was like, that's a year wasted. I don't want to wait. And then there was nursing. Now with nursing, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I was very narrow-minded with nursing. I was like, what am I gonna do nursing? I'm a dude. I don't want to be wiping butts and doing all that stuff. Like I was very narrow-minded about that, right? One of my colleagues, again, a pharmacist, she literally was like, don't be an idiot, be a nurse. It's great. There's a lot of guys who are nurses. You'll be respected. And I was like, all right, I'll try it out and see how it is. And 10 years later,
yeah,
here I am as a nurse.
Wow. Okay, so we know in some jobs, theory is one thing, when you learn in school, and it can be applied to your actual job and things make sense. Did your schooling prepare you for the real world situations that you experience in the ER and ICU?
So I will say with this, because technically when I did nursing, it was a second career and I already had a degree to begin with, because my first degree was psychology. So coming in as a mature student, I already kind of had the life experiences, right? So I kind of had the advantage then towards some of my other peers in school who were like 19, 20, who literally just came out of high school, who was just starting life and was just learning the ropes, right? Where myself and some other people around my age, we've already been around the block a number of times. So we knew about experiences and so forth. So I had that advantage. However, with my particular school, because it was, it's a collab program, like I had the choice of either doing, because I had a degree, I could have either done the 2-year stream where I could have just gone to nursing schools 2 years straight, summers and all, and been done, or I could have did the longer route, was 4 years, but at least have my summers off in between. I decided to do the 4 years because I said, you know what, I'm dealing with people's lives and health and stuff, and I want to make sure I know what the heck I'm doing. Right. So, so I wanted to do that, and also too, with the collab program, I went to Seneca, York, for those who are interested. That program is, so you do 2 years at the college level and 2 years at university level. So I did 2 years at King City campus, where I learned all my practical stuff. So I did all my practical stuff, learned all my stuff, how to do certain procedures and so forth and whatnot. And then I did my remaining 2 years at York University, and that was where all the theory came in. That's where you do your theories and everything you apply and so forth and everything. So.
Okay. Your work in the ER and the ICU, did you anticipate some of the emotional situations you would face?
So I'll tell you this. One of the reasons why a lot of nurses, I think, suffer through PTSD is that we're taught from nursing school that you check your emotions. You don't show your emotions. You don't cry when a patient passes away. You're there to comfort the family and the patient and not them comforting you, which is true. However, sometimes there's a situation where it can hit you home. So prime example, this was maybe 5-6 years ago, I believe. We had a major trauma in our ER, which involved the death of 2 young kids. It was a major car accident. At that time, we had a whole team there. We had the ER team, we had the peds team, we had everyone there just helping out to save these 2 kids. Unfortunately, these 2 kids have passed away. The emotion and everyone cried. It was so heart-wrenching. For myself, I can say, I think what kind of was a tearjerker for everybody was one of the family members had came into the room. Obviously their young one had passed away, and he literally crawled up into the stretcher and hugged his dead child. And that, I think, literally set, everyone was crying. Everyone was just it was just an emotional wreck. For me, it was a huge reflection, because there were people who at that time had been working in the ER for 15 years, and that was the first time I literally have seen them broke down. We're talking these strong, very well-minded nurses, and they just broke. They just really, really broke. And for me, that was a moment of just being human. You know what I'm saying? It was, and the paramedics were crying.
Wow.
The police officers were it was a huge thing. But then what was sad about the whole thing was that we literally just had to carry on and just, all right, okay, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends were like, how do you do that? Like, how do you deal with such a tragic thing? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's just move on to the next thing. That's how it is. And I think that's why a lot of nurses, they go through PTSD, because we're told to bottle it up, and then all of a sudden it just becomes to a point where it just, explodes.
Yeah.
So
When we talk about loss and losing someone close, sometimes it can
Mhm.
be very traumatizing. Your mom passed away a few years ago. Rest in peace. If you could share that story, and did it change the way you care for people at the hospital, or even the family members? Do you relate to them differently in any way?
So there are multiple factors with this. And ironically, I actually wrote a piece that was published on, I think it's kevinmd.com or something. He's a doctor that publishes just like stories and stuff like that. So I wrote pretty much, it was kind of like my own critique or article, and dealing like basically dealing with the death of a loved one, especially when you're a nurse. So I will say, okay, so first of all, because she died of a brain tumor. So for me, it looked at oncology patients in a totally different light. Not like to say I looked at them in any different way, but it gave me more an intuitive and gave me a new perspective. And I totally respect oncology staff. I could not deal, like me personally, I could not dealing with like cancer patients that are going to die. I think that would just make me depressed 24/7. So kudos to them. So looking at that, what I found for me personally was, and this was particularly with family, was everyone forgot that I was a son, and they just automatically looked at me as the nurse. Like, it even got to the point where it became to like decisions. People just, I wouldn't say threw me under the bus, but all eyes were on me. I literally had no time to accept the fact my mother had a brain tumor, deal with the consequences, and even with her death, like everything just happened so fast. I literally just had to assume nurse role and make the decisions and take her to her treatments and so forth. And when I even tried to even show 1 ounce of like trying to accept the fact and even grieve, basically I was told to kind of get over it and move on. That was something that I kind of faced with. And it was kind of sad, because again, that kind of all built up until, one day I remember, this was like months after my mother passed away. I was basically driving home one day from work, which another thing I'll add to, I did use work as a coping mechanism, because I kind of just used that just to kind of like shun away all my feelings, to the point where I was working like 12-hour shifts at a time, just to kind of just get to deal with it. And one morning I was driving home from work from a night shift, and there was a particular song that was playing on the radio. I forget what song it was. And I literally just broke down crying. I literally just I lost it. I literally lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, it's, as a nurse, it's kind of like, especially when you have one that's, when you have a family member that's dying, I guess people forget that you need to grieve too, right? And that was kind of the thing where I felt I was left out on at times. Like, obviously I got the chance to grieve after the fact, but during that process, it was like, everyone just was like, okay, I'm the nurse. I need to make all these decisions, which, okay, that's sweet, dandy, and nice, but can I at least take the moment to at least grieve and accept the fact that my mother has a condition that I know that she's not going to survive? And I never had that opportunity to kind of like grieve that. So it kind of snowballed into me doing things like literally I was a workaholic. That was my way of coping the whole thing, until one day it just boiled over. So there's that. Just like the whole process too with my mom was just, it was very interesting. It kind of took me to a different light, because I had to take her to her treatments and so forth, and just seeing how that went, and interacting with the doctors and everything. So it gave me a different perspective. So now when I come across an oncology patient now
Mhm.
that comes to the ER, especially if they have symptoms that are very similar
Mhm.
to my mom, I can relate more. Sometimes there's been a couple of situations where it was a bit triggering, where I had to kind of step back for a bit. I said, you know what, let me just kind of like not get let me not get too involved, or let me kind of step back a bit because I know it's just gonna set me. But you know, I kind of like, you know, I wouldn't say get over it, but you kind of like go through the emotions and so forth and carry on. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
so
So first, thank you for sharing that. And
no problem.
yeah, rest in peace to your mom. And you
Yeah.
did touch on hours. So in the intro, I explained to everyone that my mom was a nurse for 30 years at Women's College Hospital. And when it comes to the hours, she did a lot of shift work. And I remember sometimes my dad would wake my brother and I up because we had to pick her up from downtown, like 11:30 at night. What are your hours like? And did it get more grueling when COVID hit?
So I do 12-hour shifts. I might do the occasional 8, but
Mhm.
most of my shifts are 12-hour shifts. So it's usually 7 to 7 or 7:30 to 7:30. And it's either a 12-hour day shift or a 12-hour night shift. I'm more of a night owl. I prefer nights personally, but I do occasional days. Right now, so I'm full-time in the ER and I'm part-time casual in the ICU at a different hospital.
Okay.
So on average in a week, I can work anywhere between, I'll make do like 4, sometimes 5 12-hour shifts in a week.
Okay.
But then it averages out because maybe the next week I might only do a couple. So it kind of averages out. But generally my full-time job, I work 75 hours every 2 weeks. And
Wow.
then my part-time job, I do 24 hours every 2 weeks. So I can't do the math now because it's early Saturday morning, but
Yeah.
75 plus 24, you do the math. So, but yeah.
Okay. And how is that? You know, you just got married, I believe, right before the pandemic, I believe in 2019,
Yeah,
right?
so I'm gonna say this. Shout out to my beautiful wife because I originally wanted to get married in 2020.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So yeah, so we got married in 2019. Thank you, Jesus, because if we got married in 2020, we probably would never had our wedding until probably this year.
Yeah.
So to my beautiful wife, Natalie, yes, baby, I did actually listen to you for once. So but sorry, in regards to, I guess, sorry, your question was, I guess, regarding marriage and hours and so forth. Is that was
Yeah, that home
so?
work-life balance.
So I'll tell you this. So I met my wife in 2016. So this was a year after my mother had passed away, because my mother passed away in 2015. So at that point, I was still a workaholic. I was like work.
Mhm.
So at that point, I was working, I'd probably say between 6 to 7 12-hour shifts at a time. And then I would see her on my 2-3 days off. And the first day when you come off your stretch of shifts, the
Mhm.
first days are right up because you basically sleep all day, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're literally sleeping. So that only leaves you with your remaining days that you have off.
Mhm.
So, and at that time, I lived in Saga and she
Mhm.
lived in Oshawa.
Mississauga, for
So
those people who don't know. Mhm.
sorry, I'm talking like people are from like like people are from Toronto. Yeah, that's Mississauga, folks. That's like about maybe like a 15-minute drive from downtown Toronto for those who want to know.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it's a suburb city. Anyway, but yeah, so I lived in Mississauga at the time, and she lived in Oshawa. So that was like a good 15-minute drive, which when when you're meeting somebody you like them, you'll drive the distance. It's not an issue.
Right.
Well, the problem though was that like I legit like my first shift, I was like my first day off, I was tired, I was asleep. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna have to talk to you when I'm rested. And by the time I was rested, it was like back to work again.
Right.
So it was challenging at first. And she did mention it. She said, I really like you, but your shifts are just out of control. And I'm afraid that, if we get married, I'm never gonna see you again. Like you're always gonna be at work. So
Mhm.
that was kind of like a red flag for me to be like, okay, Dwight, you need to kind of slow down a bit.
Right.
But mind you, at that time, I was working because it was a coping mechanism, right?
Right.
Now I'm with someone and I can share my emotions and my thoughts and so forth. So then I'm like, okay, so maybe I don't have to do that so much. So I ended up taking another ICU job. I ended up quitting that one because that one I was like part-time doing ridiculous hours. And then I got another ICU job downtown where the hours were less. So because I still liked ICU, but I didn't have to do so many hours. So that worked out. But yeah, it can be very challenging for those who have spouses or girlfriends or boyfriends or partners who are nurses. Our hours can be challenging. It depends on the department, right? Because I mean, you can do 8-hour shifts too. I personally don't like 8 hours because I don't like the whole Monday to Friday thing.
Yeah.
I don't like it anymore. I like having my days off in between and be able to shop on a random Tuesday when there's no one there, and as opposed to fighting over the weekend. So. But yeah, it was challenging, but it worked out now. We're good.
Nice to hear. Okay, so Dwight, from a nurse's perspective, how has the pandemic changed how you go about your daily routine, home and work? This question has many sides to it. So like the psychological impact, the physical demand on your body, and the emotional stress.
So because I'm an ER nurse, and I'm not trying to bloat or anything like that, because I'm an ER nurse, I'm used to, people coming in, and if they're coming in and they're not alive and we're having to do CPR and doing all that stuff, I'm used to all that stuff, right? But it comes to a point where it can become physically demanding.
Right.
So I'll say this. I'll try to. It's really kind of hard to shorten it. I'll give you kind of like my whole journey with COVID. Okay, so when COVID first started, a lot of us were just like, nah, that ain't happened to us. We're good, wherever. That's happening over there. They over there, we over here. We good. We got whatever. Then when they did the lockdown, which by the way was like a week before my birthday, and I was so annoyed because it impacted us. We're like, okay, this stuff is serious.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna say as a nurse, I'm gonna speak for all healthcare workers.
Okay.
It was frustrating because what was happening is because COVID was so new and things were changing literally every hour. You would come into work, you get an email saying, all right, guys, these are the protocols that we're doing now for COVID. By the time your shift ended, it completely changed. You would literally get like 3 or 4 emails at a time saying, okay, now we're doing this. Okay, now we're doing this. Okay, now we're doing that. And it became so confusing because like, if you were off and you checked your email, you would literally see like 6 emails a day saying, all right, guys, this is a new policy of COVID. Now we're doing this. And you'd get confused. You're like, okay, what are we doing? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Like, what's going on? So there's that. Also too, for those, especially for nurses and healthcare staff who are not even so much critical care, but on the floor, who are not used to seeing actively dying patients. Yeah, that was a struggle because literally now it's coming to the point now where you're going into work, you're taking care of your patients, and you don't know if that patient's going to survive. Yeah, right. Like one of my pet peeves that, and I could speak on behalf of nurses, is that people say, well, you joined this profession, why are you complaining? Like this is what you signed up for. Okay, first of all, no, I didn't sign up to let people die. I signed up to take care of people and prolong their life and give them the best care they can. Right. We didn't sign up to basically, have people die. That's, we're not the Green Reaper. That's not what we signed up for, right? So it's going to be emotionally taxing to people. So dealing with that's an issue. Also, too, the PPE thingy was a major issue because there were shortages. I mean, like my hospitals were fine, but I did hear like in different hospitals there were different supply issues. I really can't talk about that per se, but that's that's what I've read. What was challenging with the PPEs is that we literally now had to gown up every single time. I mean, it's like We did do that before, but now that was only for selected patients. So if you know if a patient was under isolation for whatever disease or virus they had, you would wear the PPE. But now literally you had to do that for every single patient.
Wow.
And sometimes it became taxing. And if the patient, if there was a chance that the patient's heart stopped and, they needed CPR, before we would just run in and just start doing CPR. Now we have to gown on, put this, like, it would literally take you like almost 5 minutes just to gown up.
Wow.
So it's like by the time you go in there, the patient has already passed away, right? So that was challenging on our part because we're like, we're trying to save this person's life, but now we're gonna have to put on all this gear, and the gears, and it's sweaty and hot wearing that gear. It's not. I've worn it multiple times, and when you're done and you come out, you're literally drenched in sweat. So, wow. There's that. There is, again, don't know if someone, like, you're taking care of someone, you don't know if that person's going to survive. And the thing with COVID, which is so weird, is that COVID is very unpredictable. It doesn't matter who gets it. It's almost like the roll of the dice. We had one patient in our ICU. It's kind of a sad story. Him and his father came to the hospital for something. They went to a different hospital. And his father's an elderly man, and this gentleman's his middle age. They both got COVID in the hospital.
Okay.
The older father, who had multiple conditions like blood pressure and all that jazz, he survived.
Wow.
The middle-aged guy who was completely healthy, ended up catching COVID, thought everything was okay. We ended up having to put him on a ventilator, and then he died 3 days later. And it was so sad because we're just like, yo, this guy was like totally healthy, and we were kind of rooting for this gentleman. We're like, yo, he's gonna make it, and he did it. So stuff like that's very taxing on you because you're thinking, wait a minute, like, this guy was completely healthy. Why did this guy pass away? Meanwhile, you've got other individuals, and I'm not trying to, say that, people who have multiple conditions should pass away from COVID, but that just shows you how COVID is. COVID doesn't care. COVID's like, it's a roll of the dice. It's like, all right, you next, you next, you next, you next. And that's why, as a healthcare professional, we're just, we're trying to tell public, yo, this COVID thing is real. Like, people, I don't want to get into the whole politics debates and politics and stuff like that. But COVID's real. Like, COVID is seriously real, and people think for some reason, there's people who think it's not real and all this jazz. But I was like, yo, man, it's real. I've actually had colleagues, I know at least 10 colleagues who caught COVID.
Oh, wow.
10.
Okay.
One of them had to go to the ICU. So that alone inspired me to get vaccinated. You know what I'm saying? Like, if my own colleagues are being affected and almost died from it, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, it was just, it was very stressful. And even with COVID, we had to rearrange, everything just changed. It even got to a point where now we couldn't have drinks at our nursing station, because normally, like, we'd sip on our coffee or drink and whatnot. We couldn't do that. We couldn't have, we couldn't bring outside food. A lot of stuff that we used to be able to do as coping mechanisms, we weren't able to do that no more.
Wow.
And it took a toll on a lot of nurses, and like, we just kept working and working and working, and then it was like, everyone's just like, we're done. We're absolutely done. So,
wow,
it was hard, man. There's so many factors. Like, it's, and even with, like, between my ICU and ER that I work at, no word of a lie, every month now, I'd say there's at least about 8 people that leave, 8 to 10 people that leave. They're done. They're absolutely done. Like, it's almost like the pandemic and the way how it was handled and managed just basically a lot of the healthcare staff and nurses were just like, yo, I'm done. Like this is ridiculous. So, and now we're in a shortage. Like,
so that's the thing, there's turnover. So do you find that if you're a long-time healthcare worker, are you more used to these kind of things where you'll stick it out? But I see these people might be leaving as well. But what about the new nurses that come into the profession? Do they like quickly leave because they're like, I wasn't anticipating it being like this?
yeah, I'll tell you this. So we had a bunch of new nurses that came into our ER department, and within the last 2-3 years, a bunch of them left because, first of all, they weren't expecting this.
Mm-hmm.
B, their training got fast tracked because normally when you work in an ER, like there's like a certain training module or training kind of protocol that you go through, like you work in this area, then you advance to this area, then you advance to this area. Because of COVID and we didn't know how severe it was, these young nurses who were just starting fresh and new, they got trained like fast to work in more advanced areas, and it scared them. It's
Right.
fully fledged scared them because now they're dealing with situations where they didn't have like the knowledge, skill, and judgment to know. And this is not, and I'm not disrespecting these young nurses at all, but they were put in situations where they were just like, yo, I'm not, like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is unsafe for me. I don't feel comfortable. And then on top of that, then you have these vaccination clinics that pop up. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these young nurses were like, well, why am I going to stress myself out in a hospital setting when I can work in a vaccination clinic or do whatever, get paid a little bit more money and, just chill. So a lot of them left, or a lot of them just went to different areas. A lot of them were just like, okay, you know what? I did my 1 to 2 years here. I'm done. Let me move on to somewhere else. So,
Yeah,
but the
man.
older nurses, yeah, are sticking it out. I will,
You know,
and sorry to cut you off. There's still like in one of my jobs, there's still like a core group of us who we're still kind of sticking it out in the sense that, like, I don't know, maybe because we've kind of been through similar stuff, not to the extent as COVID, but because we've been through all the stress and we just kind of like deal with it and move on. But I know that at one point it's going to be too much for us. So
yeah, gotta hang in there as much as you can.
yeah.
And even on that, I have to extend my congratulations to you because I seen you received a nursing practice award in 2020. How did you feel about that?
I was actually really surprised. So basically what ended up happening was we had a huddle meeting at work. So every day at work, we have a huddle meeting. So we had a huddle meeting at work, and I had did during the summer of 2020, I did like a temporary job where I was like a clinical lead in my ER department. It was just like a temporary thing. So then I went back after I did that. I went back as charge and staff nursing and so forth. And I remember I did a huddle meeting, whatever. And then management had called back and said, no, we got to do the huddle meeting. And I was like, oh, what happened? Did I mess up? So of course everyone's there, and she's like, oh, there's one more thing. And then, she's like, Dwight, can you come to the front? And I'm like, oh God almighty, what did I do now? And then she presented me with the award, which was really awesome. It was very it was very heartwarming. It was very it was nice. It was really nice because at that point I felt appreciated. I mean, I always felt appreciated, but that was just that extra step.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to get that award. So yeah, it was awesome. And then the picture that you saw where I was standing in front of the hospital, that was at my other hospital. And I do want to give a shout out to my friend Gianno Carlo, who took that pic because he has his own photography thing. Okay. He was doing a project where he was just taking pictures of like frontline workers and wanting their just, saying how are they dealing with the pandemic. So I gave him a little expose about myself. And then again, he took that picture. That was after a 12-hour night shift. So he came in the morning and we took a couple pictures, and that's how they turned out. And I look like a superhero, man. So I kind of like that.
Nice. Okay, back to the ER now. My wife and I, we've been to the ER many times, and there's many times where we have walked out because there's too many people in the ER waiting. So I want to know from your experience, what's the busiest times in the ER? And in respect to hours or even like holidays, when do the people start coming?
Okay, so as far as busiest times in the ER,
Mhm.
I kind of don't want to give this answer because it can backfire because people are like, oh, let me show up at this time in the ER.
Oh,
But um, ERs, it's unpredictable. It's
Mhm.
very unpredictable. Um, Generally, most
Mhm.
times it's busy in the late afternoon, evening. Just
Yeah.
because people come off from work and so forth and whatnot, or they get sick and they go, I'll just wait till I'm done work and I'll go to the ER after. So generally that's when it's busy. Um the most so the most busiest for me has been one time where we saw over we had I think it was like 410 visits a day, which is really high.
Mhm.
Now another hospital, in Brampton, I think they're the busiest in I think Canada. They see like I think close to 500. But we
Wow.
were really busy at my hospital.
Mhm.
Holidays tend to be very busy.
Yeah.
So what generally happens is that okay, just say there's a holiday on the Monday,
Yeah.
usually Friday, Saturday, or sometimes Saturday, Sunday, it's
Mhm.
not busy. Monday, it's okay. And then Tuesday, it's like the multitude show up. Same thing if there's a holiday on the Friday.
Mhm.
Christmas is quite interesting because Christmas, on Christmas Day itself,
Mhm.
um, or Christmas night, because I normally work Christmas night. I don't work Christmas Day.
Mhm.
It's okay. Boxing Day for some reason is disgusting.
Wow.
It's like
Oh, wow.
it's like a Boxing Day sale in the ER.
Wow.
Boxing Day's busy. Christmas Eve, I believe, can be busy as well too. But then again, during these times, you got to remember people are people are stressed out. People are stressed out
Mhm.
with Christmas. People
Yeah.
are out shopping. People are with other. So people just generally get sick, right?
Yeah.
New Year's, which I love working on New Year's Eve because that's where you get all the drunk people showing up. It can get busy as well too. It's kind of a hit and miss. Most people try not to be in the ER around New Year's, but normally that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very unpredictable. Um, Especially with COVID now.
Mhm.
Our ERs are a lot busier just because a lot of the walk-in clinics now either A are still not taking people or B are doing virtual stuff or
Yeah.
C they just literally tell people, yo, just visit your ER. I don't know what this
Emergency.
is. Go to your emergency department.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Before you answer the next question, I know there's some crazy things you probably see in the ER, but be mindful of the audience. If you could share two PSAs to keep someone away from the emergency room, what would they be?
Don't put anything somewhere that you know you can't take it out. uh, um, and another thing is don't do anything while you're intoxicated or under the influence. Um, Also, too, um, don't and this I'm not trying to diss anyone by saying this, but Google is not your doctor.
Mm.
So if you genuinely feel there's something wrong with you and you're unsure,
Mhm.
ask for proper medical advice. There's telehealth. But also too, if you and yourself feel there's something wrong with you, and if
Mhm.
you feel you need to go to the ER, go to the ER. Don't go to your friends
Mhm.
who all of a sudden because they went on Google, they feel that they're an MD. Don't do that because that's where you're gonna get a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, you know what?
Um,
Before you continue, my doctor always told me don't self-diagnose. Google is
yeah,
not a good place to go because it seems like
yeah.
you have everything under the sun. But go on.
Exactly. So yeah, don't do that. Don't self-diagnose. Generally, if you feel there's something wrong with you personally, go with your inner gut feeling. If you feel there's something wrong with you, and if you feel you need to go to the ER, by all means, go ahead. But don't go don't go on Instagram, don't go on Twitter, don't go on all them stuff, ask questions, and then people who just go on Google give you the answer, and boom, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've got this condition, and you start running to like, don't do that. That's kind of like my main thing. And if something's not broken, don't fix it.
Right.
Like that's the main thing I can say. But yeah, there's that. But yeah, mainly don't come in. Don't do stuff while you're under the influence. And don't put things that are not supposed to go up certain things, and if there's no way of getting it out, that's the general stuff I can really say.
Good advice. So for my last question now, right? So besides having a busy career, you also authored a book and you have a YouTube channel, NurseSoulBrother, as we mentioned. So tell us, what inspired you? What inspired these undertakings?
Okay, so I've always been a writer since 19, how long? I've always liked writing. I've always liked writing pieces and so forth. I was involved in like when I was in high school, so I was involved in a newspaper club. At one point, actually, while we were working together in our company that we worked at together, I was a album reviewer for like this R&B website. So I did that. I did a couple of interviews there too. So I liked writing and so forth and everything. And then writing a book was something I've always wanted to do. So I wrote this one book.
Illicit Obsession. That's what I thought the book was called.
Yes, that's what it was originally called. So you got a great memory. So originally it was called Illicit Obsessions, but then I changed it to Double Deception.
Oh, how many months or years later? Like I remember you put it out later as Illicit Obsessions, or
so so my original draft of the book was Illicit Obsessions, and then going over drafts and edits, I changed it to Double Deception.
Okay.
So it's called Double Deception, yeah.
And where can I find that book? Where can people find it?
It's on Amazon. So my author name is actually Ford D Barrett. So that's my actual author pen name. So you can find it on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. Just Google it. You can find it. I'm also currently working on 3 other books, believe it or not.
Wow.
There is two of them, which it's already done. I just have to get it published. And with time and COVID and working and so forth, I've been procrastinating, and I do apologize. But those 2 books should be coming out. And then I'm working on, and technically I'm working on 2 more on top of that. So there's an autobiography that I'm working on, which I haven't really had a chance to kind of finish up. It's kind of like me as a nurse and how like my, the untold stories of the ER and ICU. So I'm working on that. And then I'm also working another mystery suspense novel as well too, which again ties in with like, medicine and so forth. Because I like a lot of mystery suspense stuff. Like I'm a like forensic files junkie, FBI files, new detective. Kind of, I like those type of shows and crime stories and books and so forth. So that's always been my inspiration. So that's what I'm working on that as well too.
Nice to hear. And now tell us about the YouTube channel. Why did you start that?
So the YouTube channel started because so there's a number of YouTube vloggers that I watch, and I've always enjoyed their content, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should try this too. But I do know that one of my struggles, which still is that I'm not going to be one of them YouTube people who's going to constantly put out content. Because the thing with YouTube is that you have to constantly put out content like almost on a weekly basis. And if you don't do that, people won't really follow you. People will fall off. And my life is just too busy. So I just kind of just do it every sporadically. So I decided to do my YouTube channel just based on, nursing topics, nursing news, nursing advice, tips and so forth. So I just started doing that every so often. I haven't been active on there for a bit. I do plan to go back on there. But yeah, I just started doing that and just, just kind of just taking it from that point on.
Nice, nice. So Dwight, I'm doing this for charity. So we're at the next stage now where you pick the charity that I'm going to be donating to. So Dwight, I have 3 balloons in my hand.
Okay.
Let me know which balloon you want me to pop so I know which charity I'm donating to.
I'm going to go with the one in the middle.
So the 7th charity Star Scorpio is donating to is Back to Back.
Oh, nice. Nice. Nice.
Alzheimer's Society.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
So Dwight, thank you for coming out today. I really appreciate it. Tell the people where they can find you.
All right. So for those who want to follow me on social media, Instagram, MedSoulBrother, Twitter, MedSoulBrother, my Facebook page, Nursesoulbrother, and my YouTube channel, Nursesoulbrother. And if you want to purchase my book, and I do appreciate you putting that plug in, you can search my book. It's called Double Deception, and my author name is Ford. That's F-O-R-D, D Barrett. And yeah.
Thank you so much, man. So episode number 7 of Real Talk with Star Scorpio in the books. We out.
Yo, peace.